All right, guys, we're about 3 minutes after, so we are ready to begin our Tech Talk today on Managing Changes in Teamcenter Part 1. Now, if you missed, I'm sorry, Part 2. If you missed Part 1, by all means, please go out to our YouTube channel. It is posted out there. Now, your questions will be answered live at the end, but you are welcome to go ahead and enter them into the chat as they come up today during the session. Our presenter today is Mr. Ronick, who's located in our Cincinnati office. He's an application engineer here at Prolim, and he focuses on customizing or crafting customized Teamcenter solutions. And this is what he does to meet the unique business needs of our customers. He is definitely an expert on Teamcenter. So welcome, Ronick. This Tech Talk is now yours.
Thank you, Misty. I'll go ahead and start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our part 2 of managing changes in Teamcenter. In the last Tech Talk, we learned about problem reports, change requests, change notice, and how we can manage changes in Teamcenter with a organized change management process. So first, when a problem is identified, a problem report is created. The problem is reproduced by the analyst and then approved. On approval, a change request is derived. In this, the impact analysis is done, business decisions, cost estimates, and benefit of making the changes are discussed. Once this is approved, a change notice is derived. During this process, an implementation plan is prepared, and the solution is finally implemented in order to resolve that change. We also saw on how we can define a change management process in Teamcenter. First, a problem is identified, and whoever submits the problem report is the requester of the problem report. The analyst will reproduce the problem. The change specialist will approve the problem report. Once the problem report is approved, a change request is derived. During this, the analyst will evaluate the impact of the change on other assemblies or parts. A business decision is made, and then finally a change request is approved. On approval, the change specialist will derive a change notice. Analyst will prepare an implementation plan. Analyst and the change implementation board will approve the plan. On approval, the analyst and the change contributors will implement the plan for the change resolution. After that, the effectivity is set and the change is closed and the parts are released. So this is a overview of how an organization can define a change management process. And today we'll take a look at this process in Teamcenter, how we can create a problem report when a problem is identified, and then how this will traverse from problem report to change request and finally change notice for resolution. So this is the agenda for today. We'll see the change management process in Teamcenter, impact analysis, and task tracking. We'll also see the complete change history once the change is completed. So let's dive into a live demo. So I'm logged in into Teamcenter Active Workspace as Alex, as an engineer designer. And Alex has identified a problem with this assembly. The problem here is that the rounds on the disks are huge, and we need to reduce the size of these rounds. So what this will do is it will improve the aerodynamic performance and also reduce the weight of this disk. So since this assembly is a released assembly, and all of its child components are also released, we'll go ahead and open a change for this. So for this, first I'll create a problem report, and in this create change for problem report, I can provide information about the problem, uh, give it some description, and at the same time I'll submit it to the workflow. That's the problem report process. If there's more information that defines this problem in detail, we can add it as an attachment here as well. So once it's created and submitted, we'll see that our problem report has been created. It defines a naming rule for this that starts with PR. This is how we can identify that it's a problem report. On the overview page, we have the metadata for the problem report. And if I go over to the workflow tab, this is where we can see the progress of this problem report. So this is the workflow diagram, and right now we are at the first step for assigning participants for this problem report. So I'll go ahead and assign the participants first. And for the change specialist, I'll assign Alex here. And I'll assign the analyst as well for this. We have another field that we can provide over here, the change review board as well, but for this change I'll leave it empty, but it can be added over here too. Then we have the affected items. Over here we define which exactly is the problem item, and implemented by, we'll take a look at this later on. But first, let me go ahead and add this to the problem item. So this is the disk for which we need to reduce the round. Then we have the reference items. This could be any specification documents or analysis document that defines the problem even further. So since now we have the problem item listed here, our participants completed. If I go over to the overview tab, we have a task to complete. That is giving some information about this problem report, assigning participants. So since I've completed that, I'll go ahead and complete this task as a requester. So at this point in the workflow has moved forward. It's time for the analyst to reproduce the problem. So let's go and log in as the analyst here. So once I log in, I'll see in my inbox I have a task to complete, and this is for the problem report that Alex just submitted. If I take a look at the affected items, I see that the disk is the problem item here. The reference items are empty, and we'll see the participants here. But from this information, I'm not able to exactly understand the problem. So I'm gonna go and request for more information from the requester. So at this point, the requester will have another task in their inbox. They will be requesting for more information now. So I'm gonna go ahead and provide more information for this problem report. I can give it some description here about what needs to be changed and what's causing the problem. Also in the reference items, I'll attach a image which describes exactly what needs to be changed. For example, if I open this up, it'll show me exactly where the round is and what's the radius, height, and area for this. Alright, so now that I've added more information, I'll go ahead and complete this task. So here, this is a different browser window. I will see that I have received the task back into my inbox. Now the analyst can see some more information. In the reference items, I can see the JPEG image for what needs to be changed, the radius, and this is a task to reproduce the problem. So now that we know what the problem is, it can be reproduced, I'll go ahead and say it is reproduced. At this time, in workflow, we are at the next task where we analyze the root cause, determine severity of the ECN. So we know the root cause, that is reducing the rounds for the disk. I'll go ahead and give it a priority here, severity, and that will be medium. So after this, I'll go ahead and complete this task. At this point, it is with the change specialist. So the change specialist over here is Alex. So we should, if we refresh this page for Alex, we will see a new task here. And then depending on, now we know that in the ECN what the problem is, how it can be fixed. We know the round has to be reduced. So we can go ahead and we can say that it can be resolved through a change request, and once I click resolve, it'll go ahead and create a CR for me. So let's take a look at the changes. If I take a look at this change here, I have a PR and then a ECR. If we go over to the reference item, I will see, or the affected items, I will see that this problem report is being implemented by an ECR. This is the engineering change request. At this point in time, we have derived an ECR for this problem report. This ECR is being submitted to the workflow process automatically. If we take a look at the process closely, we'll see that again the first task is assigning participants. So depending on the type, on the change, the complexity of the change, these participants and the stakeholders can change. So you have an opportunity at this time to assign participants for the CCR. The next step would be for the analyst to do an impact analysis, all the assemblies or other parts that are affected because of this change, cost estimate, and solution proposal. Then next, we will have the specialist. They'll go and see everything looks good and approve that change request either through a fast track or through a regular process where we involve the change review board to take a look at the plan and the estimates, cost estimates, and impact. So let's first go ahead and assign the participants for this. Again, I will assign the change specialist for this and the analyst. For now, I'll just leave the change review board as empty because we'll be doing a fast track approach for this ECR. If I go to the affected items, you'll see that the problem item has been carried over from the problem report. When we do the impact analysis, we will populate the impacted items. Also, you can see that this ECR implements the problem report that we just worked on a while back. Under the reference item, we have the same image for the change that we have to make. And now I'll go ahead and complete this task. So the next task should be with the analyst. Let's go ahead and log in as the analyst, and in this browser window under the analyst inbox we will see this ECR. So first thing, as an analyst, what I'll do is impact analysis for this change. So under the impact analysis, I'll see that we have the problem item, that's the disk, and we can see it's being used in the blade disk assembly. If there was other assemblies that this disk was being used in, it would show up here and we could add those to the impacted items. So I'll go ahead and add the assembly to the impacted items. Now, under the affected items, I will see that the assembly has been added as an impacted item here as well. Under the reference item, I'm going to add a specification document that will specify all the details, the implementation plan for this change. So this specification document is a PDF, and it provides more information about the change plan on the purpose, scope, background, the root cause, recommended actions. So we are giving more information for the ECR as an analyst. Now on the overview, I'll go ahead and edit some of its properties here. The proposed solution, technical recommendation, a problem confirmed, and we can give more information about the cost, recurrent cost, or timing factor here. So once I've provided all of the information here, I'll go ahead and complete this task. At this point, it will be in the change specialist queue whether the planning is complete and whether she wants to go for a fast track or a regular process. Let's go to Alex's inbox, and we have completed all the requirements for ECR. I'll go ahead and do a fast track. This way we will skip the change review board. If there were a decision from the change review board from management, we could use the regular path, and that way the change review board would approve the proposed solution in here. Since we don't have any change review board in the participants, I'll just go ahead and do a fast track for this. Now we derive a ECN from this, where we will actually implement the change and solution. So let's pause here and take a look at the progress of our change management process so far. So we identified a problem and created a problem report. The analyst went in the problem report, reproduced it, and approved it, and then finally the change specialist derived a change request on the approvals. Then we did an impact analysis on the change request. We added the assembly, that's the blade disk assembly, as the impacted item. We also attached a specification document and filled in all the properties for costing, priority, severity, and um, so on. Then we approved that change request as well and derived a change notice from that change request. Now, at this stage, the problem report, the change request, and the ECN will have certain closure, maturity, and disposition. So they all will have a certain stage in the process. Let's take a look at that stage in Teamcenter. So we have the problem report, ECR, and the ECN for the change that we're doing today. First, we'll take a look at the problem report. Right now, we see that the closure is still open because the resolution or solution has still not been implemented. Disposition is approved, through which we derived a change request. And we're still at the executing maturity because the ECN is still yet to implement. Similarly, for the change request, the closure is open, disposition approved, since we derived the ECN for it and still executing. But for ECN, we are still at the first stage of the ECN where we have to assign participants, create a proper implementation plan for the change. That's why we see it right now elaborating. Disposition is none and closure is still open. So now let's move forward with the ECN process. Let's go and add the participants first to the ECN. I'll use the same participants as we've been doing for others. We will not add a change contributor or a change implementation board since we won't be using those users to implement the change. Go ahead and complete this task. And now in the workflow, it is with the analyst to develop an implementation plan. So let's log in as the analyst. I have a task in my inbox to create a implementation plan for the CCN. So in this use case, I will create a simple markup displaying what needs to be changed. But this plan could be as complex as a detailed document or as simple as just a markup here. So with the help of this markup, the analyst will be able to see exactly what needs to be changed. For example, in this case, we are reducing the rounds and we leave a comment here that this part needs to be revised from A to B and the rounds need to be reduced by 1 inch. So with the help of this, I'll attach this to the task attachments as a reference so that the analyst will have access to it. Let's go ahead and complete this task. Now it will be back in the change specialist queue to review the implementation plan. You have one new task. With the help of this, I will see that we have a PDF here as a reference. We can open it and see the markups that Ronak just added here as an analyst to describe what needs to be changed and this part needs to be revved up. So let's go ahead and, since we don't have any change implementation board, so we will skip the normal route. We will just go with the fast track route where we can go ahead and set effectivity and implement the plan. But in case, depending on the complexity of the change, you had a change implementation board and we could add them as a participant. That way the implementation board could review the implementation plan and approve it uh, for making the changes. So this is the task for where we can set the planned effectivity, if there's any planned effectivity for the ECN special instructions. But in this case, I don't have any planned effectivity yet. I'll just go ahead and complete this as well. Now, this should be with the analyst to actually implement the change. So we've come to all the way towards the end of the workflow where we can actually execute the plan. So it's back in the analyst queue to implement the actual plan. I'm logged into my Solid Edge as an analyst, and let's open the embedded client and open the assembly. First, let's take a look at my inbox. So in my inbox, I have the task to perform or implement the change. For this, I'll turn on my active change. What this will do is it will capture all the changes that I make in Solid Edge and populate the change summary. That way we have a history of all the things that were changed during this ECN. Okay, so this is the assembly, and since this is a release assembly, I'm going to go ahead and revise this. We'll see how these changes are captured. Even the revise operation, it's captured inside the ECN for this disk, plate disassembly. I'll also revise this disk so that we can actually reduce these rounds on this. Okay, so let's go ahead and implement the change plan. These are the rounds that need to be reduced. We have both the rounds selected here. So that reduces our rounds, and let me go ahead and save my changes back to Teamcenter. At this point, we'll see that we have a new revision, B revision for disk, as well as the blade disassembly. We'll save all of our changes back to Teamcenter, and then inside the active workspace, we'll see all the changes that we had made here under the change summary. So the change summary shows that we have revised the assembly from A to B as well as the disk component so that we can reduce the actual size of the rounds. You'll also notice here that the maturity has now moved on to executing, and this is because we were implementing the plan. In the workflow, the next step would be for the change specialist to actually uh, look at the implemented changes and approve those changes. So I'll go ahead and complete this task. Back to the active workspace as a change specialist. Let's go back to our change. Now the analyst also can see all the changes that were made under the change summary. I'll go ahead and approve this. This is the point where we set effectivity for these new revisions of the assembly and the component. So I'll go ahead and create an effectivity that would be starting from the 26th of this month until all future dates. So this is the last step of the workflow. After this, the design will be released to 60 status. So now if I open the B revision, it is released, it's flagged now, and we have a new revision for the disk. At this point, the ECN has been closed. We won't find any ECNs under the Open tab. If I go over to the closed, we'll see the closed problem report, the closure, disposition, and the maturity. They all have been closed and completed. Same for the ECR, change request, and the ECN. So at this point, we have completed the change management process for this change. So similarly, a change management process can be designed according to the customer's need. This is not a hard-coded process. In some cases, the process could be smaller or even more intense, depending on the structure of the organization. Before we conclude the tech talk today, let's take a look at the change history and change dashboard. So for this assembly, we have, for any part of assembly, we have the changes tab and the history tab. Under the history tab, we'll see the revision history as well as any changes this assembly or a part was used in. You can see the closure, maturity, and disposition for this change. Under the changes tab, we'll again see any changes it's being used in and change genealogy. So the change genealogy is for the child components of within an assembly. It tells exactly when and through which ECN was this child either added, removed, or revised. For example, in this case, we can see that through the ECN 21, we revised this disk, that's a child component, and as well as the assembly. So these are some of the strong tools in Teamcenter that we can use to track and trace all the changes that we've done in the past. Also, we have a dashboard for changes. This will give us reports on based off of a type of changes, date, and maturity. These are drill down reports. For example, we have 3 change requests, 3 simple changes, and 3 change notices. If we click on one of these are drill down reports. Will list out all the change notices for me here. So overall, with the change management process, it increases the product quality. It's a faster change management cycle. There's better collaboration amongst or across all departments, and we have improved visibility and reporting as well with a change management process in Teamcenter. With this, we will conclude our tech talk today and open it for any questions for everyone. Thank you.